Hello, everyone. My name is Joanne Panzardi. I'm the chair of the engineering department at Cabrillo, and I'm very happy to meet you and have you join me so I could share with you information about engineering careers, the engineering education process, and also the engineering program at Cabrillo. We'll save the end for the Q&A, and feel free to type your questions in the chat as we go along. And we're going to be joined by, at the end of the presentation, I'll have a current engineering student speak, a past engineering student speak, and then also a professor of computer science, if that is what you're interested in. So the first thing I'm going to do is share my screen. And I'm hoping everyone could see it well. If you're having issues on seeing what I'm presenting, please do write it in the chat, because Marcine, one of our current civil engineering students, is here monitoring the chat while I'm speaking. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down. Okay, could everybody see something that says science versus engineering? Okay, good, Marcine, and I can see your face, so I'm going to rely on your answer. So many of you probably know the difference between science and engineering, but I did want to start the talk out with that. Science is really a knowledge base, where engineering is applying that knowledge, and it's all about problem solving and creative design. And it's important to know that really, to get a profession, to get a job, if you have a pure science degree, you really have to go on for a master's and a PhD. Where in engineering, you really only need an undergraduate degree, although many engineers get a master's degree. So the difference between science and engineering is what is and what can be. So for instance, let's look at climate change. Scientists are the ones out there that are studying what effect we have had on the environment. And they're taking a lot of data and they're making graphs. And from that, engineers are looking at that data and the knowledge and designing solutions to combat climate change. For instance, renewable energy, electric vehicles. Another principle that you learned in your science class, whether it was chemistry or physics, is gravity, right? We know what gravity, it's a law. It's some knowledge base that we have that was discovered at some point by science. But engineers need to understand that science in order to design structures. So I'm hoping with just those two examples, you understand the difference between it, because often I have students who say, oh, I want to get a degree in chemistry, when really probably the better degree to get is chemical engineering, depending on who they are and what their interest is. And at Cabrillo, any of you who do choose to come to Cabrillo, we really help every single student individually work through figuring out what is the correct path for them. Okay, so a lot of times students are asking, well, I'm not really sure which field of engineering I want to go into. And three questions you might want to think about is, what do you want to design and build? What are the products that you're interested in working on? Also, another question to ask yourself is, what type of companies do you want to work for in terms of industries? And then also, what do you want to do in your job? What is your job function? So we're going to look at products first, and we're going to talk about industries as we go through. So I have a few slides right here, just talking about some products that engineers design, and one is structures. So while we're going through these slides, think about, is this something that you would be interested in designing? So structures, that's certainly more civil engineering, architectural engineering, structural engineering, all right? Or how about vehicles? Are you more interested in vehicles? Vehicles move where structures don't. Vehicles are more mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering, mechatronics, which is a mixture between mechanical and electrical. Now we're starting to look at industries. Are you interested in working on sustainable energy, right? That would be mechanical, could be electrical, it could be civil, it could be many different fields of engineering. But is this something that interests you? And some of it is a process of elimination too. Like, I really don't want to work on that. And that's good. That's to help you decide. Do you want to work in community systems, right? Planning, urban planning, water treatment, roads, how to deal with wastes? Is that something that's interesting to you? How about agriculture? We live in a community of big agriculture. Are you interested in working in agriculture? Again, that would be considered an industry. Another industry is the medical industry. Would you like working on devices that help people in the medical industry? Is that something that makes you interested? Or toys? Many engineers work in toy design and manufacturing. Or how about recreational products? These are all things that engineers are involved in, and this is what you can decide which product I'd like to be designing, and that will help you determine which field of engineering. Do you want to work in pharmaceuticals, beauty products, electronics? Do you want to work on software and apps? And these slides are just the beginning, because many of these slides 30 years ago wouldn't be around, right? Certainly there'd be structures, but apps weren't around back then. Well, what's engineering becoming? There are many future fields of engineering as well. Okay, so now let's take a look at what I did is I grouped.
He suggested dump it into the ocean.
So thanks, Marcine. Okay, so what I decided here is I grouped a number of fields of engineering into different categories. So civil and mechanical engineering, they're dealing with things that you can touch. And civil engineers tend to deal with things that are more static, and mechanicals tend to deal with things that are more dynamic, moving. Then there's the electrical computer software engineering category. And then there's the chemical engineering, which includes biological engineering, agriculture, materials engineering. And then the last one is industrial. So it may be that you don't know which exact field of engineering you want to go into, but maybe you know which category you want to major in. And notice that I have some that are color coded. Robotics and mechatronics engineering link mechanical and electrical engineering together, right? Some universities want to call it mechatronics, some call it robotics, but in the end, they're really a cross between these two categories. Notice environmental engineering is kind of a light orange, and I have that category in the civil structural area, but I also have it in the chemical area because it's dealing with civil engineering design, but also needing knowing chemical information also. Manufacturing, green, is in the mechanical engineering area, but it's also industrial. Industrial engineers are people who are really organized, that run factories and Safeway and hospitals because they know how to process things and they're really organized. So again, I'm just trying to expose you to the many different fields of engineering. And I will send you all a link to this presentation at the end of our talk today. And here are some national statistics and California statistics on the job market for all these fields of engineering. And the goal from this talk is not for you to decide which field of engineering you want to go into. It's just to make you realize that there's a lot more out there than maybe you know about. The big categories of engineering are civil, mechanical, and electrical, and you may have chosen one of those to be your future. But once you learn more about engineering, you might actually choose something different. And Engineering 5, and I will mention this class again, Engineering 5 is called Engineering as a Profession. And it's a course that's taught in the fall, the spring, and in the summer. And in the summer, it's taught in a 2-week format. And it's a class, it's really a career exploration class. It's where you get to learn about all the different fields of engineering, and we do hands-on projects. So by the end of the course, you could determine which field of engineering is most exciting to you. Okay, now what I wanted to look at now is engineering education in the 21st century. Now, regardless of whether you go to a university straight from high school or you come to Cabrillo or another community college, this is really talking about what the engineering education process is like. Now, many of you may have heard that engineering is a 4-year degree, and it's written as a 4-year degree, but every year the average number of years to get a degree is somewhere between 5 and 6. So don't be surprised that you're going to be working on your engineering degree for 5 years. It's, even though it's considered a 4-year degree, it's very intense. There's a lot of math where you see math and physics and chemistry and a lot of engineering design classes. So again, I went and visited a number of universities across the country, and I, looked at what we were doing at Cabrillo, and I was actually just so super proud because I think that we do an awesome job of the beginning part of engineering before you transfer. So this is a culmination. This PowerPoint that I'm doing now is really a culmination of a lot of research I have. All the photos I have happen to be our own students at Cabrillo. So, um, in engineering, there will be hands-on learning, meaning you're going to have labs in your classes, just like chemistry in high school and physics in high school had a lab. All the physics and chemistry and engineering classes have labs at the universities or at the community colleges. You're going to get this from any school you go to. And these are, this is a picture of our surveying class. This is our circuits class. And these are 3 from our materials class. But one thing, and this is another time where you really start to think about what makes you tick and what do you like. I know that I'm a hands-on person and I'm definitely a creative person. So I really love the creative aspect of engineering, not just getting to use my math and science, but also designing solutions. And at Cabrillo and at some universities that are more hands-on, they'll have engineering design projects from the freshman year. But there are universities that don't start with engineering design projects until maybe your senior capstone project. So if hands-on design is important to you, you want to make sure that you're going to a school where you get hands-on design. Again, all these photos of are from our Cabrillo students. So this was a water balloon catapult that was designed where the water balloon had to hit a certain target. This was a 3D maze for a bowling ball. This was using common material to make musical instruments. And this was a walk on water project. Can everybody see my cursor when I move it around the photos? Yeah, thank you. So if hands-on design is important, Cabrillo definitely will supply that to you, and some universities will and some universities won't in the first 2 years. Another big thing about our Cabrillo program, it's, project-based learning. That means you're learning by doing projects, which certainly this is the case. You're applying concepts you learned in school in a class to do a project. But also another big thing at Cabrillo is service learning, where you're designing something to serve other people. So an example, these 2 pictures here are, you may have when you were little, went to the Science Discovery Museum in the Capitola Mall. And that's a small little museum for younger kids where you learn about scientific and engineering principles. And one of the projects we did, or a bunch of projects we did in one of my classes, is students were in groups and they designed exhibits for that museum to explain scientific and engineering principles. So that's what this is. So this would be a project-based learning because they're designing something and learning from it, but it's also service learning because it's serving other people. And I'll talk about some other examples as we go along. Also, if you're interested in hands-on design, you want to look for a school that has a makerspace, and Cabrillo does. A makerspace is typically a space that has 3D printers, laser cutters, things like that, where you can make a lot of things. And again, some universities have it, some not. Another thing that's really helpful now, some of you may be high school students who get A's without studying. Some of you might have had to work hard to, get grades. Well, regardless of who you are, when you go to college, you're going to need to get help and you're going to be getting tutoring, even if you were getting straight A's in high school. And it's really important to go to a school that gives student support. And at Cabrillo, we have what we refer to as the STEM Center. And it's this 5,000 square foot space that has all computers and books to borrow, and students work together on projects, and we have free tutoring, and faculty have their office hours. So it's a great thing about Cabrillo, and you could also look for that at another school as well. We have tutors in all our classes, and this is really a great thing. Like Marcine, one of our students here, has been a tutor in surveying, and she's going to be a tutor in statics next semester, where students, once they take a class, they can become the tutor for the next semester. And then they get to, the benefit for the tutor is that they get to learn the material again more in depth. I mean, you probably have heard that once you have to teach something, you really learn it. And then also it's great for the students in the class because they see other students who have gone through the class already. So these are all tutors. Um, there are engineering clubs at Cabrillo, and every university, oh, I shouldn't say every, almost all universities have engineering clubs. So like the American Society of Civil Engineers, this is WISE, the Women in Science and Engineering. There's SWE, Society of Women Engineers. This is the Robotics Club at Cabrillo that won national competitions. We have an Engineering Abroad Club. So you definitely want to find clubs, because if you do go straight from high school or four-year school, the clubs are key for you to create your own community there. Um, we have an engineering abroad program, and I would call this a service learning program where we bring students to Central America. We've been to Guatemala and to Costa Rica, where we work with a local village on an engineering project. And we've worked on projects where we redesigned a soccer field. We did a lot of water projects. We did some agricultural compost projects. We built a school. We did a lot of projects. So if that's something that you're interested in, many universities have some kind of abroad programs, but they're not necessarily engineering abroad. Not, Cabrillo is one of the few community colleges in the country that has an abroad program. So that's definitely a plug for Cabrillo. But if being global and helping people, this is really service learning again, think about that. We take students to conferences. The right photo, I took a bunch of students up to SHIP. I took up to Seattle for the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineering Conference. This was a group of students who went to Washington, D.C. to the American Society of Engineering Education Conference. The group on the left made a presentation. The group on the right wasn't doing a presentation. They were visiting presentations and meeting companies. And then we go on tours. We've gone to Tesla, Google. We went to tons of different companies on tours. Um, because I mentioned earlier that Rich Hart started the engineering program at Cabrillo in 1961, he started a database back then, which I've continually update with all the students who went through Cabrillo's engineering program, transferred to a university, and are all over the world working as engineers, with many of them being in Santa Cruz County. So we keep connections with them, and they're great. They donate to the engineering scholarships. That's why we have so much money to give students who are majoring in engineering at Cabrillo. And also they provide job shadowing. And then we have mentor programs. In the Engineering 5 class that I mentioned earlier, I set up each student with one of our past alumni that's in the field of engineering they're interested in. And they basically talk with them, and hopefully when COVID passes, or we'll be able to tour more companies. Right now, we've been doing it all remote, but there's a way of having a network with past students. This is true at universities and at Cabrillo, where you could get internships. Kalika was working for the Santa Cruz County. She's a civil engineering major. Brandon here was working for Smith and Vandiver in Watsonville, working as a mechanical engineer. We also have research experiences. We have had a number of students go to MBARI, which is Monterey Bay Research Institute in Monterey rather, in Marina. And also students go up to UC Berkeley or UC Santa Cruz and do research for the summer. And then we do K through 12 outreach, and we run community events. This was at the MAW, the museum downtown. This was some cardboard boat competition at the Yacht Harbor that was fun. And then we had a STEM day. And just remember that we and universities want to provide you with whatever things you need to be a successful student. And that includes any kind of learning skills or disability services, any kind of asset. And actually, Marcine, you could probably talk about that, right? The services that you're able to get, which are really helpful. And then these are some of our faculty in the engineering and physics department. And then we've had a ton of federal grants at Cabrillo. And let me see down here. This is some stats. Let's see. So I mentioned this again. I don't think I want to go through all the details, but there are more than 600 engineering majors at Cabrillo. It makes it one of the top 10 majors at Cabrillo. Alumni has impacted our programs. Um, Most of our students do wind up staying local in California, and many do transfer to CSUs, although we've had students go to Montana State, Northeastern, Northwestern, North Carolina State, Colorado School of Mines, Virginia Tech. I could go on and on and on. We've had many students go out of the state as well. We give about $40,000 in scholarships each year to students while they're attending Cabrillo, which also, if you're coming straight from high school, your first 2 years are free anyway. And then here is a link to the Cabrillo website. So, okay, I think I'm gonna stop for a moment. Let me just look ahead to see where I want to go. I'm gonna stop sharing for a moment and see where we are. We're at 7:30 so far. I'm gonna put on gallery view so I could see who's here. Okay, I think what I'd like to do is take some questions and answers right now, and then we could move on to some more topics. So far we've talked about different fields of engineering. We've talked about the engineering education process. So I'd like to get some questions from you, and I can look at the chat now. So let me see. Oh, thanks for putting the stats in there, Marcine. Do any of you, and you could also put on your audio and ask a question as well. How can I access the video recording? I will email that to you as well. Okay, and then I'll post it also on the engineering department page. That's probably the best way. What do you think? Gerardo, do you think the best would be just to post it on the website? I'll definitely do that. Who should I talk to about putting together a 2-year transfer plan? Me. And we're going to go and talk about that in a little bit. For engineering abroad, do students get credits that transfer? Yes, students do get credit for the abroad program, but it's really something that's peripheral to all the requirements that you need. No university is requiring that you do on an engineering abroad program. So it's really above and beyond, which actually puts you ahead of students who do not do that when you go to transfer. There are welding classes. So I'm sorry, I hope I'm not answering them. I tend to be a little bit of a fast talker, but this video and the presentation, I will link on the Cabrillo engineering site, which I will show you in a little bit. Then somebody said, who should I talk to about scheduling figuring out your program courses? You could meet with a counselor, but I do it with all engineering students, and I'm more well-versed in all the engineering courses. So Gillian, I've already done that for you. And then engineering abroad, you will get units that transfer, but you won't need them because there's so many classes you need to take before you transfer. But it is something you could definitely write an essay on, and you'll get an internship like that. All my engineering abroad students have gotten internships so easily because they've already had hands-on skills. Welding, yes, Cabrillo does have welding classes, and for all mechanical engineering students, I suggest that they take it. We also have a machine shop class, which is Engineering 12, which is interesting. So you may have heard, and some of you may be looking at Cal Poly as a place to transfer. There's classes that are more additive in nature. Additive means like putting things together to build something. So 3D printing is additive, you're adding material. Welding is also considered additive or joining, where a machine shop, you take a hunk of metal and you cut it away, it's subtractive. So you're going to get hands-on exposure to both. The welding class is not required for any transfer school, but the machining class is required for some schools to transfer. Okay. Another question is, are engineering classes expected to be in person in the fall? The labs will be in person, the lectures will not. So for instance, one of the classes is engineering materials. It's a really cool class. It requires college chemistry and college physics. So you'll take it one of your last classes, before you transfer, but it's a class that has lecture and lab. The lecture will still remain online, but the lab is in person. In the spring semester, everything goes back in person. Got it? So next spring, everything, lectures and labs are back in person unless something crazy happens to the world again. But this coming fall, the lectures are remote on Zoom like this. They're synchronous. This is called synchronous, where your teacher is here with you. It's all the lectures are synchronous, but we record everything. So if you can't make a class, you can watch the video later, and that would be asynchronous. So in the fall, I'm teaching an engineering surveying class, which is important for civil engineers, structural engineers, environmental engineers, agricultural engineers, and did I say structural? I did. Architectural engineers. I knew it was for 5. That's a class that has a lecture and a lab. The lecture will be in person, but the lab, the field lab where we're surveying, will be outside.
I think someone also asked how long the engineering abroad program is.
Oh, the engineering abroad program is 1 full year. We take a fall class before the January when we go abroad. So, you know, our college or any college on semesters, you go to school for 4 months, right? From September, October, November, December, and then you have off in January, and then you start up about February, March, April, May. So 4 months, a month off, 4 months, and then what does that leave? 3 months off. Yes, 3. Okay. So we always have our abroad program where we go abroad in January, and it's for 2 weeks. In order to prepare for the abroad program in January, we have a fall class where the students get to know each other. We get to work on teams on preliminary design, and we learn how to be safe and healthy in a third world country. So we do that in the fall with a course. Then we go abroad for 2 weeks in January. And then we have meetings every week in the spring where we reflect on the experience, see what we actually learn that apply to engineering. We prepare presentations and we go out and meet with engineers in industry. And that's how you get the internships. So it's a year-long program, but we go abroad in January. Okay, another question? Otherwise, I'll continue and move on. Let's see. If I delay enrollment until spring, am I still eligible for 2 years of free tuition? You know, that's not a question I know how to answer because that's more a financial aid question. Counselors would know the answer to that. Let me give you the names of, okay, I'm going to email everybody. I'm going to just write STEM counselors. And these are the STEM counselors that I would suggest that you see. Christina, Lauren, and I'm only giving you first names because there's only one of each person of these names in counseling. Jay, Barbara, Marcy. These are the 5 STEM counselors that most of my students work with. Christina, Lauren, Jay, Barbara, and Marcy. And they would be great to ask that question. I'm not sure if they will still give you the 2 years free. I don't know. Will most other lecture topics be distance in the fall and labs? Wait, I'm sorry. I can't read the whole thing. Hang on a second. Will most other lecture topics be distance in the fall and labs in person, such as good. So the question is, for chemistry, physics, and bio, is it going to be the same thing where the lectures are in person and the labs, the lectures are online and the labs are in person? I don't know. Every department and actually every teacher gets to determine how they're going to teach the courses. So in engineering, our department has committed to having labs in person. I don't know what biochem and physics will do. However, when you go into My Cabrillo and you click on a course like Physics 4A, and you have to click a few times, you will see exactly how they're teaching the class. I could show you that. And it'll say whether they're teaching them synchronous, asynchronous, in person, or whatever. Okay, so I'll show you that. Let me write down So I want to show you the engineering department page. I want to show you the courses and how you could tell whether they're online or in person. You could also email the department to find out. Okay, let's see. Let me see. I don't have a car, so I'm not sure if I could join the labs if it's at Cabrillo. So, I could actually, because I'm the chair of the engineering department, I could answer for you. If you cannot attend a lab in the fall for any reason, we could work something out with you. Don't worry, we could figure that out. But at some point, without a car, you're going to need to learn mass transit, right? So prior to COVID, students would get to school by, sometimes we would set up carpools, but at some point you're going to need to come to school. But in the meantime, definitely just work it out with your instructor. Okay. The engineering department faculty are really amazing, and we really support you all in learning, and we understand that it's a really hard time right now. Okay, I'm going to go back to my presentation. Okay, so I'm going to go back to sharing the screen. Just so I don't forget, I want to mention to you that the engineering department with a STEM grant purchased a bunch of laptops, high-end laptops with engineering software that you need that you could borrow for the whole semester or the whole year. Okay, so here's a situation where, because we're dealing with the pandemic and we really need to have, the students really need to have technology, we've gone out and bought laptops that you could borrow for the whole year that have engineering specific software on it. Okay, and I probably should show you where to request that. And then I want to show you Assist too. Okay, so first I'm going to show, let me see if you can see it. Can you see the engineering department page right now or no? No. Okay, hang on a second. So I have to stop sharing and then I have to reshare. And I want to mention that Cabrillo just changed their website a few months ago. So we're all still trying to figure out how to reformat stuff. These are just some photos on here. There's going to be more diverse photos. And it's kind of small print. So let me see if I can make it bigger. Yeah, it's making it bigger. Okay. So, all right. So everybody could see, give me a thumbs up. Can everybody see the engineering department page? Notice the link. You don't have to remember the link. That's all you need to do is do a Google search for Cabrillo Engineering. Okay. And down, as I go down, it talks about this orientation. So this is where the link to this orientation is. So this is where I will post the presentation and the video. I hope that's good for everybody. Okay. And then you don't have to go scrolling looking for it in your email. And then somebody asked, to make up your schedules. I want to first show you what you need to take the first semester at Cabrillo. So I'm hoping everybody could see this. It says what to take your first semester at Cabrillo as an engineering major. So for all engineering majors except electrical, computer, or software, these are the 4 classes you need to take. CG 51, and I suggest taking the STEM section of it. Engineering 5, choose your level of math. It really depends on what level of math you're at. Choose your level of chemistry. Again, it depends whether you still have to take high school chem or not. And then if you want a 5th course, you could also take one of these. Engineering 25 is for all. Engineering 12 is for mechanical or aero. Engineering 1A is for civil, architectural, or structural. So this is for all engineering majors except electrical, computer, or software. If you want to major in electrical, computer, or software, you take the first 3 are the same, CG 51, engineering 5, math, and then you're going to choose a programming class. And if you want a 5th class, here it is, physics. So everybody sees where I am, right? I'm on the Cabrillo Engineering Department page, and this is telling you what you need to take your first semester at Cabrillo. Now, if you choose to take Engineering 5 in the summer, well, then you could stick another course in there. Okay. And I'm teaching Engineering 5 this summer. I'm team teaching it. And I'm also team teaching it in the fall. So you're going to get to see me then. And I could help you make up your whole semester by semester plan, you know, this week, next week, the week after, when you're taking Engineering 5. I could do it whenever you want. But the most important thing is that you make sure you're taking the right classes the first semester. I've had students come to Cabrillo and take math and a whole mess of psychology and history and English, and they're going to be at Cabrillo 4 years. You got to take the core courses. Okay. And the core courses are the math, the science, and engineering. So I'm hoping this is very clear for you. If you don't know which engineering major you're going to major in, take the top for all engineering major. The only difference is you'll take chem instead of a programming language. Everybody good? Thumbs up. Here is when the Engineering 5 course is going to be offered. When is it going to be offered? In the summer, in the fall, in the spring. And notice they're all synchronous online. In the summer and the fall, they're synchronous online. In the spring, it's in person. And this is a low pressure class. And let me see. Okay. And
there are a few questions. I don't know if you want to answer them
Okay.
now or.
Okay, hang on a second. So this is who I am, Joanne Panzardi. Don't call my phone number because I'm not in the office, I'm remote. Here it says email me, but I want to put in the chat. My email is easy. It's JP, my initials, jp@cabrillo.edu. So I'll put it in the chat. Hang on a second. Okay, let me come back to, let me come back. I'll stop sharing for a moment. And in the chat, I'm going to put in my email, jp@cabrillo.edu. And right now, my office hours are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 to 2 p.m., which may or may not help you guys because you're in high school still. But if you email me, we could set up another time. And I'm doing it in the the virtual STEM center. Marcine, would you mind getting the link to the virtual STEM center for me and putting it in the chat?
Yeah.
Those are my office hours. Okay, let's see. How does the honors program come into play with the program? Okay, let's see. The honors program, there are two different kinds of honors courses. One are some GE classes are considered honors. For instance, English 1A, you could take the non-honors version or the honors version. So you have to specify which one, register for which section. The other type of honors courses is many of the upper level math, engineering, and physics classes are already considered honors classes, and you just register for that course and tell the teacher, and I think you have to do like one extra assignment or so. So those are the honors courses, and I would build them into your program. Okay. Connor, you're asking, is English required? I'm assuming you mean taking an English course. Connor, could you unmute yourself and tell me what you mean by that?
Yeah, taking an English course.
Okay, so yes, but you do not take English the first semester. You could take English whenever the hell, and I'm sorry, I'm being strong on it, whenever you want. They're offered all the time. Do not take them the first semester. Okay. Especially if writing takes a lot of time for you, you don't want to take away from the core courses. So typically we have students take English the second semester, not the first semester. Now, If you could fly through English and it's easy for you and writing, it doesn't take much time, then you could take it along with the core courses. But I really don't want to see a student who's taken so much general ed and not enough math and science the first semester, because you have to take 5 math classes, you have to take 3 physics classes, 1 or 2 chem classes, about 8 engineering classes. You could take English anytime we could fit it in the schedule. I don't want you to bump off taking something else that's going to impact you later on. Connor, was that clear? Was my explanation clear to you?
Yes.
Okay, great. And again, I could work
Thank
with
you.
you individually to set up your schedule. The most important thing is making sure you're taking the right class the first semester at Cabrillo, because you're going to see me in the summer or the fall, and I'll make up all the rest of the courses unless you want to, we could do that, like I said, anytime. Okay, there looks like there's another question. Oh, no, that was just Marcine and I. Okay, I'm going to continue going on, okay? Hang on a moment. I want to bring up a website. Okay, I'm sharing the screen. Okay, I'm back on the Cabrillo website, right? And I'm going to go to a different website. And this website is so amazing. It's called Assist. Hang on a second. Something's in the way here. Can everybody see the name of this website? Is it too small? Can you see it? Assist.org, ASSIST.org. Could you write it in, Marcine, write it in the chat? Assist.org. This is your way of finding out what you need to take at Cabrillo before you transfer. So notice it says transfer information here. I'm going to put in this year. I'm going to type in the institution you're at. So I'm typing in Cabrillo. And then I'm going to type in, let's say, UC Davis. I'll type in Davis. So let's say you want to start at Cabrillo and transfer to Davis and get your bachelor's degree at Davis. This is how you would find out what courses you need. Assist.org was designed for California students that want to go to a California public school. So whether you want to go to a UC or a CSU, both of them are going to work on Assist. The private schools are not on here, and the out-of-state schools are not on here, but I could show you individually how to do that. But for now, many of you will be applying in-state as well. So you plug in, you go to assist.org, you plug in Cabrillo, where you are now, you plug in the university you want to go to, and you click View Agreement. And then it says at the top, and can everybody see where it says major? And I'm going to type in aerospace, and it happens to be towards the top because it's A. I typed in aerospace engineering, and I'm clicking on the agreement, and out pops a list. Could everybody see this list? Notice the top, it says articulation agreement by major. And on the left side, it says Davis. And on the right side, it says Cabrillo. And in the middle, it says aerospace. So even though right here, it's all written in paragraph form, soon the courses are going to be written in columns. The left column is the course at Davis, and the right column is the Cabrillo course. So I'm going to look at the right side. So if I am a student at Cabrillo and I want to transfer, I'm an aerospace engineering major and I want to go to Davis, I'm going to need to take Chem 1A and Chem 1B. I'm going to take English. I am going to take this English there. I'm scrolling down. Engineering 25, engineering 15, engineering 35, engineering 45, engineering 30, math 5A, B, C, 6 and 7, physics 4A, B, and C. Isn't this awesome? This is totally awesome. You know exactly which classes you need to take. As long as you know which major you're interested in and which university you want to go to, you know exactly what you need to take. And the next step is me working with you on setting up your schedule, or a counselor working with you and setting up a schedule. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. And Realize though, that you're going to go to Cabrillo and you are going to, whether you like it or not, you're going to apply to 4 or 5 or 6 universities, just like maybe you applied to a bunch of universities coming out of high school. You're going to apply to a bunch of schools. So we're going to have to see, well, what does Davis want to see? What does Cal Poly want to see? What does San Jose State want to see? What does Berkeley want to see? What does UCLA want to see? So it's a puzzle, and engineers, we love puzzles. So we'll see what each of those schools want, and then you'll know exactly what you need to take. Okay, so does that help whoever asked that question? Now, now you know what courses you need, and now you have to determine, well, how many demanding classes can I take at the same time, right? And that's going to determine how long you're going to be at Cabrillo. Remember I said earlier that most people say, oh, engineering, it's a 4-year degree. But I said, what is it? Between 5 and 6 years, right? Some of you will get it in 4 years, but most people, almost all won't. You'll be at Cabrillo probably 3 years, and then you'll have 2 years left at the university. But the goal is for you to figure out, these are all the courses I need. What can I handle at a time? Because remember, when you take a math class in high school, you take that subject all year long. In college, they cram it all into 1/2 of a year. So if you went to Santa Cruz High, you kind of know what cramming classes is like, right? The other high schools don't have that. So we have to determine, well, what can you handle each semester? And quite likely, you'll be working while you're going to school, maybe. And you'll want to be in clubs too. So 3 years is pretty much I've had students transfer in 2 years, but they were amazingly prepared from high school and they didn't have to work at all. And they were willing to just get in and out in 2 years. But hardly any students do that. And maybe you don't want to hear that, but that's the best way to do well, learn stuff, have a community at Cabrillo, and take advantage of activities that are offered at Cabrillo. And get internships. You know, you probably want to get internships in the summer. You don't want to be taking classes in the summer, but it's your choice. You get to decide, but I sit down with you and you look at all the classes and then we figure out, and ultimately it's your choice. Okay, any questions about assist? So let's say you want to transfer to University of Colorado Boulder, great hands-on for your university. Well, they're not in California, so it's not going to be on assist. So what we do is we'll go to Boulder, Colorado school for, let's say you want to go mechanical engineering, look at what their students take the first 2 years, and then I know exactly what you need to take at Cabrillo, and I schedule you that way. It's no big deal. Okay. Okay, 2 more things I want to show you so far. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going back to the Cabrillo website. Marcine, did you happen to pull up the place, that site where we know how to fill out to get a free laptop for borrowing? I have to find it.
See if I can find that.
Just hang on, everybody. Oh, I know where it is. It's on the COVID spot. I remember. So you guys, I'm on, it doesn't matter. I could just go to the main Cabrillo page, but it doesn't matter where I am. But on the top, see, there's that shape. It's not an oval. It's really a slot. You'll learn that in Engineering 25. Click on the COVID button. And let me scroll down. Hold on a second. Okay, there. So everybody with me? I'm on the Cabrillo website. I clicked on the button that says COVID, and on the right side, it says loaner Chromebooks and laptops available. You apply to the hardware equipment loan program. So you click on that and you apply for it. And oh, you need your college ID and stuff. So I can't do it right now. I guess I could just sign in. Let me just sign in and make believe I'm a student. But I'm not sure if I'm going to get there. Let's see. No. Oh, no, yeah, it is here. Okay, could you see the left side? It says reason for technology request. You write, I am an engineering student and I need a laptop that has engineering software. Because you don't want them to give you a Chromebook. You want to get an engineering laptop. I am an engineering student. I need a laptop with engineering software. Cool. And then you get an email. And when you get the email, then you go pick it up. Okay, the other site I wanted to show you is, I'm going to go back to the Cabrillo website. I have to move things out of the way. So I'm going to just the main Cabrillo website. And on the top, it says classes. And so now I guess I'm in my Cabrillo, right? Maybe you guys have saw this before. And I'm going to write engineering. And there's engineering. And I'm going to look, because someone asked me, how do I know whether a class is in person or online or what? So what I'm doing is I am going to pick fall. And notice I picked engineering. So here's the engineering 12 machining class, which is great for mechanical, aero, industrial. So you see the class here. It says it's offered fall and spring. You have to click on a bunch of places. I'm sorry, but you got to keep going deeper. So the first place I'm clicking is here, view available sections. Then when I'm in the fall section, I have to click again, unfortunately. And when you click again and you look down, it says, this section is a hybrid online course. Report to your first class via Confer Zoom link on the Engineering 12 Canvas site. At the first class, you will be assigned your time within the Tuesday 6 to 10 class time to attend in person during future classes, blah, 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 blah. So this is how you determine whether classes are going to be in person or online or synchronous or not. Okay, so let's look at another one. Let's go to, let's look at the surveying class, which I'm going to teach. So I'm click on that, and then I got to click again. And notice it says the course requires attendance on Zoom during the Monday evening 6 to 10 class, which means it's synchronous. And the recordings will be posted to Canvas. And then in addition, the course includes required arranged online instruction for a total of 20 hours and 4 in-person Saturday field labs. Got it? So I'm going to close this and I'm going to stop sharing. So where did I go? I was on the main Cabrillo page and I went to classes. Will every student who takes engineering courses need a laptop? No. So these are the courses you need a laptop. I'm typing them.
In
Hang on a
that
second,
case,
okay? Hang on a second. So fall 2021 engineering courses needing a laptop. Let me just think for a minute. These are the ones required. Engineering 1A, 12, 25, and 30, because they all use software in that class. But I would borrow it, even if you don't need a laptop if you take an engineering 5, but if you're doing another class, it's great to have the software. Okay, wait, hang on a second. I know somebody verbally was asking me a question, but hang on a second. When is the best time to sign up for a laptop? Get it before you're going to take classes. Get it before you're going to take classes. So I would get it earlier than later, and you need it for the fall. I would sign up now and say, I need it for the fall, and they'll give you a time to pick it up. I think earlier is always better than later. Okay, hang on. One of them is software engineering. I'm not sure what you meant by that. So hang on a second. Joshua, what do you mean by that? I'm not sure what you mean. Certainly, there is an engineering field called software engineering that you could get a degree in, but I'm not quite sure what you mean. Is this in terms of the laptop? I'm not quite sure what your question is. Oh, I see. Um, yes, you're actually all engineering majors use laptop. They all use computers, right? Certainly software engineers definitely need it, but we're really looking at it, like in specific engineering courses, you're going to need to use software. Like you might have heard of AutoCAD or SolidWorks or C++ programming. Those are things that you're going to be taught in the class. And you definitely will need to have a high-end computer or laptop that could handle the software. So the engineering department at Cabrillo is supplying you with a laptop that has the software already on it, which is really awesome. But yeah, you're right. Software engineers need laptops all the time. Okay, somebody was asking me a question verbally. So could you unmute yourself and ask me?
Okay, so in that case, if I don't need a laptop for like machine or welding, whatever engineer class I take, um would it be possible to like get software on my desktop?
Yes. Yes. And what you would want to do is talk to each of your teachers because in engineering 25, if let's say you're taking engineering 25 in the fall. No, actually, let me use your example. Let's say you're signed up for the machining class, engineering 12. The machining class uses Fusion 360. And the teachers who teach that class will show you how to get it for free and you can install it on your desktop. Thank you for asking that question. A lot of the software you need is free and you could download it on your own computer. You just have to ask the teacher how to do so, how to get the free access to it. But for those of you that don't have a high-end desktop or a laptop, we're supplying laptops that are high-end that have the software on it. Does that make sense? Because if you already have a laptop that's high-end, you don't need to borrow one. You could just get the software for free. Thanks, Al, for asking that question.
You got it.
Okay. Okay, another question?
I believe Derek had a question earlier on.
Okay,
in the
Derek?
chat. It's the many companies say must be enrolled in a four-year university to qualify for an internship. Do most consider Cabrillo students?
That's not, well, if they say you have to be in a four-year university, I know of so many Cabrillo students who have gotten internships in the summer. In fact, I place many students. So I don't really know who those many companies are. I've had students get research internships and internships at engineering companies. So I don't know. If the company is that specific and says you have to be at a university, well, then I probably would submit my resume anyway and ask a question. But if they want to use that criteria, I guess they could use whatever criteria they want. I think the criteria I've seen before is you have to be in taking engineering classes because, you know, every engineering student has to take math and physics and chemistry, right? But depending on your engineering major, once you start taking classes that give you the skills, that's where you're going to get hired. So engineering 12, a machining class, engineering 25, where you learn AutoCAD, engineering 26, where you learn SolidWorks or Creo, the surveying class where you learn how to survey, the materials class where you learn how to test material. All those are giving you skills that allow you to get internships. So I've always seen it that they're looking for a skill set, not where you are. Okay. Will every student take? Okay. Yeah, Derek, it could be maybe the ones you looked at, but that's something you could, you know, come and see me and I could help you. But I would say the courses that give you skills, when I meet you in engineering 5, I mean, I am doing this quick overview today, but in engineering 5, we're going to delve really deep on all these topics, including internships. And that's going to be really where we're going to be able to talk about, well, which courses give you which skills and which fields of engineering. Might see, no questions silly. I know you heard it. Do you need to be good at math? No, you do not have to be good at math to be an engineer. Actually, let's go back. Let's go back all the way to the beginning. Hang on, let me move. You could see that PDF file again, right? Okay. Sorry, I'm maybe it's good that I'm a little slow on this because then you get time to take a breather while I'm not talking all the time. Okay. What do you want to design and build? I think you all understand that, you know, products. What type of companies do you want to work for? Industries, like you might love bikes and want to work in the bicycle industry. I had a student who initially wanted to be a civil engineer, and then she realized so many people in her family have diabetes. So she wanted to go into biomedical engineering and design some kind of new insulin thing. So she wants to work in the medical industry. Also, industries you may not want to work in. You might not want to work in the military, you know, in defense. You get to choose what you want to work in. You could be a chemical engineer and decide whether you want to make computer chips in the semiconductor industry or work in renewable energy, in sustainability. You get to choose. But the third thing you get to choose is a job function. And I didn't talk about that yet. A job function is, do you want to be a design engineer, designing something? Do you want to be a test engineer where you're testing? Like, let me think of a bicycle. Everybody could picture a bicycle. Do I want to be an engineer that designs different aspects of a bicycle? Do I want to be an engineer that tests different parts of a bicycle to see if they're failing? Do I want to be an engineer that works in sales, selling a kind of bicycle? Do I want to be an engineer who's managing a whole bunch of engineers, a manager? There's many different job functions you could be. So many functions, and you pick what's your personality. Are you social? Do you want to go into sales? Are you very theoretical? If you want to go into theory and theoretical research and design, you might use math, but most engineers don't use much math. So you do not have to be a math stud to be an engineer. Engineering is a creative endeavor, right? You want to think creatively. Most engineers are not using complicated math. Let me give you for instance, you've seen a river flow. When math is used to describe movement, if you see a nice smooth river, it's called laminar flow. The math is very simple to describe that. But if you find a river that has a lot of eddies and stuff, that's very complicated math. You might have to use partial differential equations. So an engineer who goes into maybe hypersonics, space travel, they might need to use math all the time. But most engineers don't use much math. So you do not have to be a math pro, but you will have to take math classes and you will have to work hard to get through those math classes. There are plenty of my past students who had to take Calc 1, maybe even 3 times, are working as engineers right now and doing a great job. Okay. I think that's a misnomer. Most people don't know what engineers do. And then teachers say, oh, if you're good at math, you should do engineering. Well, yeah, certainly. But if you're bad at math, you could still be an engineer too. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and go back. I hope that, Gerardo, I hope that answered your question. And remember, we have all this tutoring on campus and it's remote too. So as soon as you're having a hard time, even before you have a hard time in math, go to the workshops. Teachers are running workshops. Tutors are running workshops. It's all free. Okay. Do some courses require a laptop present during class? Marcine, what do you think? In Engineering 25, you probably need to be doing AutoCAD in class. I'd say some of them, yeah. Yeah, some of them you'll need to do the AutoCAD. But many of them not.
It's hard online to see if you don't have 2 monitors to see what the teacher's doing and to be able to follow along. So sometimes it's better to just watch them and then do it on your own later. But if you can follow along at the same time, it's helpful.
Okay. Thanks, Marcine. And Marcine, since you're on, so Marcine is a current student at Cabrillo. So Marcine, I'd like you to talk to all these folks because most of them are high school students. I'm taking a guess. They're high school seniors and maybe trying to decide whether to go straight to a university or come to Cabrillo. So I'd like you to talk about your path and when you were in high school, what were you thinking about doing? And then what did you ultimately do? And how do you feel about your decision?
Yeah, I came to Cabrillo straight from high school. I went to Aptos High, and I have an older sister who also went to Cabrillo, and there was this huge stigma that like you should transfer straight to a 4-year. So I was very pressured to try and do that as much as I could, even though it was not ideal for my situation, for my family situation, my money situation. Just it wasn't the best situation for me. So I did apply to a few universities, but I ended up going with Cabrillo. And at the beginning, I was like more hesitant, but I'm so glad that this is the choice and this is the path that I led to because there's so many great things. I've learned so much. I love the small classes. Um, I've been able to meet a lot of great people here. The professors are great. The students are great. The engineering community is awesome. The free tutoring and like all the helpful resources that Cabrillo has. It's most of it is like free, like these loaner laptops. And I know I don't know if they're still offering them, but hotspots as well. If you don't have a great connection, that's a very big thing. And yeah, there's the honors. I'm in the honors program right now. I've been able to get through that. It's not so hard to apply. It's not like this crazy thing. So I would definitely encourage it if you're interested. Don't be shy. And I'm also in the accommodation center at Cabrillo, the ASC. So if you have trouble with, I have accommodations for extra time for quizzes and exams because I get super stressed and I tend to blank and students finish in half the time it takes me to finish an exam. And I didn't find that out until a year and a half into Cabrillo that this was an option for me. And I would definitely recommend if you need it. They have a bunch of other support services too, not just time, but if you need certain materials, I'm not sure exactly what else, but if you're interested in the program, I would definitely recommend looking into it. And yeah, it's great. I've been able to get work opportunities here at Cabrillo. I've been able to work on campus, and TAing has also helped me learn the subjects better as well, which has been great. So I would definitely recommend it if you're still on the fence about it. It's completely worth it.
Thanks, Marcine. And you may have heard before that it's easier to transfer to a university that you want to go to if you come to a community college first. So those universities that are impacted, a lot of universities are impacted that you maybe can't get into Berkeley or Cal Poly or wherever, but getting in as a transfer student from a community college is easier. Do we still need to buy textbooks? Some textbooks are online. Actually, one of my students found a whole bunch of textbooks online, and that's been really helpful. So I've shared that with students a lot. You guys seem to be able to learn from an online textbook. I think me being so old, I really like it when it's a paper book. But you'll either you could get them online, or the engineering department has a whole bunch of textbooks in our stock room that we let students borrow as well. Or you could buy them, but for engineering, we stick with the older version of the books, or they're cheaper. They're like $20 instead. Kyle, are you here? I see 2 iPhones, so I'm not sure if Kyle is here or not. Okay, hang on a second. I want to text Kyle for a moment, so just give me a moment. Okay, somebody asked, do we need to pay for anything if the textbooks are online? I mean, some classes you have to pay for stuff and some you don't. In our engineering ones, if you have free tuition and we're supplying you books, then you, oh, engineering paper. Um, in many of my engineering classes, I have you guys buy engineering paper so that you could learn how to present things professionally. So that's something you need to buy. Marcine, have you felt, did you have to buy stuff?
Yeah, some of it is optional and some of it, like I've definitely had instances where I've been told to buy textbooks, but you can find most of them online. Um, yeah, you just have to look around but be careful with trying to find free stuff. But a lot of the times I get most of the textbooks free. Every time I buy textbooks, a lot of the time they're usually optional and I don't end up needing to buy them regardless. So definitely talk to your teachers about it because it does vary.
And then somebody asked about the benefits of the honors program. Okay, sorry, Kyle's coming soon. Benefits of an honors program. To tell you the truth, the honors program is really more important if you're majoring in a pure science or a liberal arts, not in engineering. It does look good on your transcript, and to some of the UCs, it looks good, but the only thing that looks good about it is that you've been accepted to the honors program and you've taken one honors course. That's it. You don't have to complete the honors certificate. And I just got this clarified from the honors program. You could talk to the honors program director, Carolyn Jackson, because she's really the expert on it. But for what I understand in engineering, it's a little bit of a benefit, but not as much of a benefit as the other pure majors. Okay, Kyle. So Kyle's in grad school right now in engineering. So Kyle, could you just tell them where you went to high school, and then did you apply to universities from high school? Why did you choose Cabrillo? What was your experience and where you are now?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, apologies for showing up late. I'm in another time zone and I whiffed on the entering times into my calendar correctly.
You're totally fine.
Yeah, so I grew up in Santa Cruz, just down off of Market Street, and I went to Harbor High School. And yeah, so at the end of senior year, I put in some applications for a couple state schools, a couple UCs, and I got into the few that I wanted to go to, but I also was considering just staying in town and going to Cabrillo, knowing that they had a pretty robust lower division engineering program. So I think that for me, the initial decision of whether or not to, having gotten into a couple different schools, but then also like kind of weighing the option of staying in Santa Cruz and going to Cabrillo. I think it really came down to the fact that like I was going to get essentially the same level of education, right? Same lower division classes, like a fraction of the cost. And then so I ended up going to Cabrillo. And then after that, I transferred to Cal Poly. And then following that, I went to apply to UC Davis for grad school. And I got my master's there, and I'm currently working on my PhD. So yeah, if you have any specific questions, I hope that kind of covered my general path. I'm super, I think it was a really, really good, for me personally, of course, everyone is going to have their different things they want to get. But I'm really stoked with how that path worked out. I thought that they're all good stepping stones and really worked out well for me. So yeah, if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Well, let me mention, so Kyle is going to be teaching the surveying lab in the fall. And then Marcine was the TA last fall and probably this fall. So Kyle's also a professor of engineering at Cabrillo with me. I think maybe just sounds like many people maybe choose Cabrillo because it's cheaper, in fact, maybe free for many of you at high school. But in the end, the smaller class size and how caring the teachers are and care about your learning and really here are mentors is really what makes Cabrillo stand out. And then the whole idea that you really get a lot of hands-on and small class sizes and design. I mean, I would say that there are very few universities across the country that I would say match what we offer students in the engineering program at Cabrillo. I looked at a bunch of universities because my son now is a sophomore in college, and of course he didn't want to go to the school where his mom was in charge. So I went and looked at universities, and that's when I did put together this 21st century PowerPoint because I was just pretty disappointed in a lot of the programs. But I think it's also because we are a hands-on family and we like to learn by building and doing stuff and having the personal attention. And I think that there really weren't a lot of schools out there that actually provide that. I think the only downside to Cabrillo is it is a commuter school. There's no dorms, but maybe you're not really that interested in that, but you'll get it in your last 2 years when you transfer. Okay, I see some more questions here, and I just texted Jeff, the computer science professor who's supposed to be joining us, but I don't see him yet. So let me see what the next one is. Did you find, Kyle, did you find it hard to keep up with classes at the university? So when you transferred to Cal Poly, how did you feel you were prepared?
I'm trying to think if there's any area where I wasn't particularly prepared. I think that maybe I'm trying to think of something in particular. The only thing I could say that was maybe a little bit hard to work into was like some of the engineering mechanics courses. 'Cause I think that at Cal Poly, I think they concentrate a little bit more heavily on like engineering for their engineering student, like the engineering mechanics, whereas at Cabrillo, I think that a lot of the classes are more general. So I think the flip side of that was like I was a lot more adept at like computer science. I think that I had an easier time with like the mathematics. So I think that since Cabrillo, it's not just specific to Cal Poly's curriculum. I think that you end up being really, really strong in a lot more areas. But yeah, definitely like in the engineering mechanics was pretty tough my first quarter. But other than that,
Kyle, let me add to that. In Southern California, some of the courses are considered sophomore level classes where in Northern California, they're considered junior level classes. I don't know if that makes sense. So there are classes that are considered junior level in Northern California. It's called Dynamics and Strength of Materials. Those are 2 mechanics classes that Kyle's speaking of. But now Northern California schools are starting to include it in their sophomore level. So we're teaching it. So now when Kyle was at Cabrillo, there was no engineering 36 and 40. And now both those classes exist because it's a Northern California lower division course. The semantics you may not understand, but so when Kyle transferred to Cal Poly, he was lacking 2 courses that the sophomores there already had because Cal Poly is considered Southern California. But now we have the courses at Cabrillo.
okay. Yeah, I think that maybe like in summary, just there's going to be a little bit of transition between community colleges, and then every single college is going to have some little difference. But besides that, I would say that Cabrillo probably over prepared me in other areas. So another good Cabrillo thing.
Okay, Brian, it's question, what's the average cost of a textbook? Well, okay, there are teachers who are teaching with textbooks that like a 0 cost textbooks. Let me just hang on a second. You guys are asking a lot about textbooks. Let me go find the link that I know of that my students have shared with me on free textbooks, okay? Hang on a second. Hang on a sec. Okay, this is the website that a student has shared with me in the past that my students have been using to get online textbooks. You do a search by either author or a search by title or a search by the ISBN number. Marcine, have you ever used this site?
I think I forgot about it because I couldn't find one textbook, and yeah, I haven't actually tested it recently.
Okay.
So
So this is a site where you could get a lot of free textbooks. Okay, but the average cost, I mean, if you have to buy a brand new calculus book, it could be $100. But if you if you let Cabrillo know, they could give you loaner copies to use, or the Mesa program will give out loaner copies of books. So that as long as you ask, teachers will tell you how to get access to things. There's a lot of support. Somebody said, you mentioned this, but would you suggest staying at Cabrillo 3 years? Yes. If my kid came to Cabrillo, I would make him stay 3 years. There's no reason to get out in 2 years. Why stress out? You're 18, 19 years old. Why rush it? Enjoy your life. Enjoy going to school. Have friends. Do projects together. Build things. Join clubs. Go on abroad. No reason to get out in 2 years. Plus, if you rush it, what are you going to rush the next 2 years? You know what I mean? As long as you finish all the classes in 3 years at Cabrillo, you will only have 2 years left at the university. I would not rush it. It's not worth it. Plus, you want to get really good grades. Okay, somebody was.
I did it in 3 years, and even in 3 years, engineering's still pretty tough. So I think it really behooves you to take 2.5, 3 years.
I'm almost. It's
Joanne,
almost 8:30. So actually, could all of you do me a favor and just type in your first name in the chat? Type in your first name and the field of engineering you think you're interested in. Okay, Aiden mechanical, Al mechanical, Connor mechanical, Brian mechanical. Great. Mechanical is the most popular nationwide and at Cabrillo. Josh, software engineering, not sure yet. Gavin, environmental. Jillian, environmental. Adrian, not sure. Yeah, and in engineering 5, you'll get to explore all the fields and determine whether it's good or not, you know, which ones you're most interested in. And CSUMB, Monterey Bay, it's a school that never had engineering. In a couple of years, they're going to have mechatronics engineering. So if you find while you're at Cabrillo, Angelica civil, Derek mechanical, when you're going through the program at Cabrillo, you might want to mix mechanical and electrical, and you could transfer to a school that has both. It's a mechatronics engineering. Could there mechanical for ground vehicles? What do you mean ground? Like cars? Of course, yes. Yeah. David software. So does everybody understand? I'm going to go back to the Cabrillo website. Okay, does everybody see on the engineering department website? Right? Just do a Google search, Cabrillo engineering. Most important thing is to figure out what you take your first semester. Okay, so Connor, I think you're the one who asked me about English. Maybe it wasn't Connor, but if you take engineering 5 in the summer, then you could take English in the fall if you want. But just remember, you're going to be taking 2 demanding classes already, math and chem, which are going to be twice as fast as high school. Plus you're going to take the career exploration class, and the CG 51 is pretty easy. And then you could take another one if you want. The engineering 12 machining class is pretty easy too. But I really want to make sure that you're spending enough time on math and chem. So the 2 of you that are interested in software engineering, you want to take math too, but then you want to take a programming class. Okay, so just to give you an overview, I talked a little bit about engineering career options. I talked a little bit about engineering education, talked about engineering at Cabrillo. Here is this orientation, and this is where I'm going to post the Zoom recording and the those PowerPoint slides. Actually, they were a PDF. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if there are any last minute questions. Oh, is it more recommended to take engineering 5 first semester than English? Yes. You want to be sure which field of engineering you want to go into. Again, you could take English in the summer. You could take English anytime. I took engineering. Derek, you took engineering 5 already. Good. Do you need to take it again? No. If you already took engineering 5, you're done. You're done with engineering 5. Hopefully you learned which field, or at least narrowed down which fields of engineering you're interested in. And then while you're going through the other courses, you'll fine tune it. Like when you take a physics class, you're going to say, oh, I like the mechanical side. I like the electrical side. So Derek, for you, since you already took engineering 5, you don't need to take that. One school that I'm looking at is a 3+2 year engineering program. I thought this was a little expensive, but I would graduate with 2 degrees, one in biology at one and one at USC. What are the cons here? So where's the 3 program at? Who is this speaking? So the problem, oh, I'm sorry. Biola University, Aiden. All right, this is my feeling about that. When a university has a 3-2 program, which means Biola is offering this first 3 years of an engineering program, and they're enticing you to do that, and then you get to transfer to USC, and then you get a degree at USC in engineering. The problem I see is Biola is not committed to engineering, because if they really were committed to engineering, they would have a full engineering program, and they don't. So a lot of times universities that do this do not create a community among their engineering students. They just tell you what to take, and you take a bunch of math and a bunch of physics and a bunch of chem, and then you'll take some other classes, the general ed classes that you're getting your second degree at, and then they transfer you to USC. I found a lot of students drop out of those 3 programs because they don't bring the students together. There's no community among engineering students, and you need a community. And they don't really teach engineering, so they don't really bring students together. So my question would be, I would look at Biola University's website for engineering and see, do they have any engineering? Do they bring you guys together, or are they just enticing you to come there? I would say a better 3-2 program would be going to a community college that has a strong engineering program where you have a community of engineering students, and then transfer to a university for the last 2 years. I think another maybe thing would be is, do you really like USC? Is your end goal to go to USC? And if that is, then you would want to see how much they accept transfer students from Cabrillo or from any community college. I had a student who went to USC and really didn't like it. But that was only one student. Not that many students transferred to Southern California schools at Cabrillo. Yeah, Gerardo, I could email it to you also. But I would, Derek, I would look at what Biola's program is for those engineering students for the first 3 years. And then I would look at USC and how they transfer those Biola students and how they transfer the community college students. But as a person, I don't want to get lost at a university. And I have direct, because UCSC, before they had some engineering, they used to have a 3-2 program, and I used to teach up there too. And those students felt like the only time they ever got connected was in my class, which was the last semester before they transferred to Berkeley. And a lot of them dropped out because there was no community. So that would be my concern. Okay, any other questions before we sign off? Kyle, thanks so much. And Marcine, thanks so much. And I'm going to stop recording now. So if anybody has, like, let me just stop the recording.